everybody, and welcome to Against the Fence. We're that UFC fan channel that gives you that real fan opinion. In this video, we're going to be giving you our top 5 most entertaining UFC fights of all time. Don't go anywhere. And we're back. And I tell you what, guys, I've definitely got the best top 5 in this. Hands down. I'm gonna blow you away.
I don't know. It's strong. That's really strong to say.
I was gonna say, I guarantee we're gonna have one or two there that we're gonna have the same. I can guarantee it.
Yeah, there's gonna be that, but we're gonna have our different reasons, aren't we?
Yeah, true. And they're gonna be ranking different places.
True.
I bet on each other's card. Like, I mean, I've got an absolutely eye-watering top 5 that's gonna like blow you guys a whole new a-hole.
Oh,
let me tell you.
Well, if you like our top 5s in this video, don't forget to maybe even drop your own top 5s in the comment section below and smash a like.
We'd love to hear that.
Yeah. So let's let's go over to you, Ash.
Yeah.
Take the center stage.
Yeah, Ash, what do you reckon? What's your top 5?
Yeah, that's it. Right, so my top 5. So ranking at number 5 is Frankie Edgar versus Maynard 2 at UFC 125. So if you've been tuning into some of our streams or you know us very well, then you would know I do mention Frankie Edgar quite a lot because he is my favourite fighter. That's why it's special, but also it's very special is because it was his first lightweight title defence. What I liked about this fight, Frankie got dropped multiple times in the first round and he hung on in there in that first round, fought his way back into the fight, and in the second round did land a massive takedown, a massive right hand, and just hung on in there, fought his way back into the fight. Unfortunately, it did end in a draw though. That was my number 5. In at number 4, I've got Dan Henderson versus Shogun Rua, and this fight took place at UFC 139. This fight was special to me because just both Dan Henderson and Shogun Rua were just both in their prime, and also this fight was the second or third scheduled 5-round fight in UFC history. So the reason I like this fight is because this fight was just back and forth throughout the whole fight. In round 1, Dan Henderson knocked down Shogun, and then Shogun hurt Henderson. Pivotal point of this was round 3, where Dan Henderson dropped Shogun Rua and landed in some nasty ground and pound. Some say it should have been finished then. In my opinion, the ref could have stepped in as well. I'm so glad the ref didn't stop it because in the 4th and the 5th, Shogun fought back, and especially in the 5th round, Shogun had Dan Henderson down for all of the round, landed in nasty ground and pound. The result was Dan Henderson winning this by decision. But the reason I put this above the Frankie Edgar Gray Maynard fight, it was just iconic. Two guys in their prime, knocking each other down. Dan Henderson knocking down Rua, then Rua hurting Dan. It was just so back and forth. Number 3, I've got Robbie Lawler versus Rory McDonald, and this fight took place at UFC 189. The reason this fight was special is because Robbie Lawler was on a bit of a tear at the time, and it was his first title defense. The reason I like this fight is because this fight was back and forth, both landed big shots. We saw a patient Robbie Lawler in this fight. Usually Robbie Lawler goes in for the kill. But in this fight, for the first 3 rounds, he was very patient. But again, it's still all-out war, this fight. It was the 3rd round where Roy landed a big head kick, hurt Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler hung on in there. And what makes this fight so special was the ending of the 4th round, where they both just stood in the middle of the octagon and stared at each other and said, let's bring it. Robbie Lawler did win this fight in the 5th round TKO. I put this fight above Dan Henderson versus Shogun Rua just purely because what I mentioned a minute ago, end of that 4th round is where they both stood at each other, both bloody mess in the middle of the octagon, staring each other down. So I got move on to the next one. In at number 2, I've got Cub Swanson versus Do Ho Choi. This happened at UFC 206. The reason this fight was special to me is that at the time, we all know Cub's an exciting fighter. He's never in a boring fight. Cub was on a bit of a streak at the time. That's why this fight was special to me. I like this fight because literally, as soon as that bell went, they were swinging for the bleachers. They dropped each other several times. If Cub had Choi hurt, Cub would go in for the kill, and then Choi would hurt Cub, and vice versa. Every single round 1 to round 3, it was an all-out war. They both left everything in the octagon. This fight ended, Cub Swanson won this fight by decision. To be fair, in the 3rd round, if there was more time, he probably could have got the finish. I rank this fight above the Robbie Lawler versus Roy McDonald fight, just purely because they were all out swinging for the bleachers every single round. And as I said, Cub Swanson is never in a boring fight. In at number 1, I've got Weili Zhang versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk. This fight happened at UFC 248. This fight was so special as it was Zhang's first title defense. I was just interested to see if she could deal with Joanna's output. We all know Weili Zhang's got the power, but the output of Joanna I thought could have caused her problems, and it didn't. But every single round, as I just mentioned, this is so similar to the Doo Ho Choi fight, but this happened for 5 rounds, not just 3. Every single round was they were both landed powerful shots on each other. Back and forth every single round. This fight was notable as well because Joanna had a massive hematoma on her forehead. She looked like an alien at the end of this fight. Zhang won this fight by decision, and the reason I put this above the Cubs Watson and Doo Ho Choi fight is just because it happened for 5 rounds and not just 3. Back to you, boys.
Nice. Some interesting picks there, and a few very surprising ones as well. I mean, the Cub Swanson versus Doo Ho Choi one was a very surprising one. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I
ranked it up there, didn't I?
You did.
You did, yeah, you did. And look, I thought there was some really good contenders in there as well. I mean, some of them quite similar to what you'll see in my picks actually as well. So we do have a very similar taste, but for different reasons. And I ranked them a little bit differently. I'm quite surprised that Shogun and Henderson ranked so low on that top 5 list.
Yeah, same. I was very surprised at that.
That's what I mean. That's why it's so tough. It was so tough.
Oh, it was really hard. So we have a look at the next one. Jordan, you want to take the floor? Let's have a look at what your top 5 is.
Right.
You said it's gonna surprise us. You said it's gonna blow us out of water, right?
Oh, absolutely.
All right,
I'm very confident.
Let's find out. Take the floor.
Okay, here we go. So, moving in at number 5, we've got Diego Sanchez versus Clay Guida at The Ultimate Fighter Season 9 finale. Both of the guys came out, they just love to go to war, And how can you not put a Diego Sanchez fight in your top 5 picks? The guy just has this mean stare on his face, looks to go battle every single time. And this fight got inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame as well. Why did I love it? Both guys come out, they don't touch gloves, and they just start swinging straight away. Clay gets the takedown, is able to control Diego for a brief period. Diego gets back up, drops Clay with a massive head kick. It's probably one of the best first rounds you'll ever see out there. And Diego Sanchez picked up the split decision win in the end. My number 4 pick, we've got Forrest Griffin versus Stephan Bonnar at the Ultimate Fighter Season 1 finale. The stakes were high in this fight because one man was going to walk away with a 6-figure UFC contract and the prize of being the first Ultimate Fighter winner. It's also the fight that helped propel the UFC into mainstream media as well. A lot of experts will put this fight in their top 5 purely because of that reason. Both guys went to war for the whole 3 rounds. In the first round, Forrest has Bonnar hurt, and then Bonnar gets the takedown. Then towards the end of the round, Bonnar has Forrest hurt, and then Forrest secures the takedown. It was just a wild fight. Forrest gets cut in the second round. The crowd were going ballistic. It looked like both guys emptied the gas tank after that round. And it's going in 1-1 into the third round with whoever can take it. Forrest took the unanimous decision win though. And I've ranked this one before the last one purely because the third round was all to play for and the stakes were just so high. Moving on to my number 3 pick, and it's Weili Zhang versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk at UFC 248. Now, the reason why this fight was so special is because Joanna came into the fight looking to regain her crown against a very tough, very strong striker. For Weili Zhang, she was making her first title defense, and there was no better competitor than the former champion. Joanna also holds the record for the longest title reign in the UFC strawweight division. She also has the second most strikes landed in the UFC and the first most in UFC title history. But why did I love it? Because it was such a high-paced fight. Probably the most entertaining technical fight that I've ever seen in a while. That pace was sort of set from start to finish. Weili Zhang took the split decision win, and it was a very, very close fight. I scored the bout to Weili Zhang myself. Why do I think this fight ranks above the other one? Well, it's pretty simple. It was a 5-round fight. And the other 2 were 3-round fights. Moving on to my number 2 pick is Robbie Lawler versus Rory McDonald 2 at UFC 189. This was Robbie Lawler's first title defense at 170 pounds. Both guys were on the top of their game in the prime of their careers. Roy was only 25 at the time and had achieved so much in the sport already. He was looking to avenge his split decision loss against Lawler, and he was looking to take over from GSP at being the best welterweight on the planet. A lot of people also felt that he was ready to do that. Why did I love the fight? A fight where one guy is outscoring and the other guy is just doing the most damage. Rory poured it on Lawler at the end of the third round and at the beginning of the fourth round, and he had him badly hurt. The judges had Rory winning 3 rounds going into the 5th round, and at the end of the 4th, they both spit blood out of their mouths and then just stare at each other for a good 5 seconds. And it was just iconic. It was such an important moment in the sport. Rory was 1 round away from becoming the UFC welterweight champion. All he needed was that to get through that last round. Who won? Well, Lawler was able to bust open Rory's nose in that 2nd round and was able to target that nose throughout the fight. It took just 1 shot in the 5th round, which completely shattered Rory's nose. And the reason why Rory went down is because his vision was just gone. He just couldn't see. And then that was it. Why did I rank this one above the last one? Well, there was no knockdowns in the last one. So it made sense to put this one ahead of it. This one had 1 knockdown, and it was in the last round, and which it stole the show, really. Moving on to my number 1. My number 1 pick. Dan Henderson versus Shogun Rua at UFC 139. Now, why was this fight special? Both guys were legends in the sport, and both of them were former Pride champions. Shogun was the former UFC light heavyweight champion. Henderson was the former Strikeforce light heavyweight champion. And this fight was also inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame because it was that good. And it was also the first non-title fight to go full 5 rounds. In some ways, that was a turning point in future UFC events. So why did I love it? Henderson stunned Shogun and landed some heavy shots early. Henderson goes 2 rounds up. He drops Shogun in the 3rd and starts pouring it on. The ref was so close to stopping it. Shogun was able to recover and finish the round in the clinch. From this point, Shogun knew what he had to do to win. He wears Henderson down, rocks him in the 3rd, secures mount and drops heavy bombs. And in the 5th round, Shogun gets mount again and was able to finish the fight on top. And it was just one of those back and forth moments. You just couldn't decide who could have stole the show, really. Dan Henderson did get the unanimous decision win. And I ranked this one above any of them purely because of the fight had such a momentum shift after the 3rd round, which led to Shogun dominating the last 2 rounds, unlike the Lawler and McDonald fight, which ended because of 1 shot. And that's my picks.
Interesting.
I bet your ears are burning.
All right. Okay, that was exciting. I did love every moment of that, every line of that. All fights there were fire. They absolutely were fire. I can't deny that.
And
I was going to say, obviously, you ranked Shogun number 1, and I ranked Shogun number bloody 4. That's what I'm saying about opinions.
Yeah.
Good,
no, absolutely. I gave myself a bit of a criteria going into this, to be honest. It was all down to sort of pace, really. The first 2 that I mentioned were 3-round fights, and I ranked 5-round fights ahead of that, purely for that reason. I like a 5-round fight.
Yeah.
And not only that, those 2 kind of dropped down in pace throughout the fight as the fight gone on. Whereas the other 3 didn't. They sort of maintained a pace throughout. And then, you got to factor in potential knockdowns as well. Mm-hmm. That's true. It was just a very tough job, though.
Yeah.
We both had Robbie Lawler and Roy McDonald quite high in our top 5, and we both mentioned about the iconic moment about they both stood in the middle of the octagon and just stared each other down. What a moment that was! A moment that was!
I remember we watched it live, Ash, and it was it was insane to watch, and then. To counter in the fact that you also had Conor McGregor versus Chad Mendes coming up next. It was like, how do you follow on from that?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Do you know what I mean? I think it'd be foolish not to have that one in your top 5. And
I'm interested now.
Spoiler alert. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get into it, shall we?
Go on then, mate. Go on.
My number 5, and you know what? I do not want to do it any disjustice by tagging it number 5. It could easily be number 2 or number 1. It's so difficult to mention. But it's Izzy Adesanya versus Calvin Gastelum, UFC 236, that happened in 2019. So the reason why this fight was special is because Whittaker had taken some time out to injuries, and 2 of the top contenders in the division, Gastelum and trailblazing Izzy Adesanya at the time, fought for the long coveted title. Now, why did I love it particularly? This was 4 rounds of like brutal punishment from each man. The pair were tied after 2. So what it was left down to was the very last round, the 5th one, to battle it out and just determine the title champion. Now, if you imagine when you get to that point, when you got everything on the line and everything boils down to 5 minutes, you start seeing energy get drawn from places you never knew people could draw energy from. And you start seeing certain possessions. And there's this moment just after that 4th round, and the 5th one's just about to begin, when the camera pans into Izzy Adesanya, and it's slow. You can see him talking to himself, and he's saying, if you read his lips, he says, "You can't beat me. I'm willing to die." And I gotta admire a man that takes that much into the octagon with him. I absolutely do. And you know, he said in the post interview as well, he said, "Look, I really agreed to myself. I was willing to die, so I was willing to kill." And that's just the animosity that you want to see in the octagon. Although you don't want to see anyone die, but you know, it's pretty exciting when they get close. Who won this in the end? Izzy Adesanya, who won. And you know, it probably was because he was able to invest that 1% more than Gastelum perhaps was willing to put in. My number 4. So this one is actually Robert Lawler versus Rory McDonald 2, UFC 189. Why was this fight special? McDonald's rise in UFC coincided with the reign of GSP, something that Jordan was saying earlier. Many looked at this guy to be the heir to the throne, if you like, in the division. So he lost to Lawler when they first met, but he was considered to be just a bit too young at the time. So what was looking to happen is in the second fight for him to sort of avenge his first loss and come out just win. So people were more so on his side to win this one. And he very nearly did. Why I loved it, and for the same reason the boys have mentioned as well, is insane how, you know, generally not even looking at each other's work and stuff, but it's insane how, you know, we're very similar minded in this. But the whole canvas was painted red, right? Fighter DNA was all over the arena. They had superb striking displayed from both sides. Like, these guys were bloody head to toe. These guys wanted to hurt each other bad, and you could tell. And it's that sort of thing that sort of took the fight to a whole new level, one that's higher than any contest the UFC can put on, you know. And that was just a full epitome of what UFC should look like and should be. But in the end, it was Robbie Lawler who took the W on this one after a knockout blow that sat down right down the pipe on McDonald's broken nose. But the reason why I ranked this fight above the last one, this fight had more blood than a blood bank, you know, true barbaric display of animalism. And, you know, everything your girlfriend fears when you tell her for the first time, "Honey, I want to be a UFC fighter." Just all that stuff running around her head. That's exactly what you saw that night on the canvas. Going into my number 3, I was a big fan of the Dean Henderson Shogun Rua won the first fight. Now, there's no surprise this fight had made it into the UFC Hall of Fame, something that Jordan was mentioning earlier. This was only the second time a non-main event had been scheduled for 5 rounds at the time. So something quite iconic. And it really, you know, did set up the pace for what came after. But why I loved it, there was bombs thrown straight from the get-go. You know, both ends demonstrating their power. It was that back and forth legendary fight. It had everything you could hope for, filled with punishing action, high-level technique, drama, and, you know, courageous stands from both fighters. After 5 rounds, it was actually Henderson who took the W by decision. Like all great fights of that sort of magnitude, you know, even the loser of that fight was a hero in my eyes. You know, just be, you know, years after be told about how legendary, how epic that fight was. Going into number 2, we got Romero versus Paulo Costa, UFC 241. Now, under different circumstances, this could have easily been a championship fight, all right? Even still, it was a fight that included 2 of the most talented middleweight division contenders. This was not one to miss, but, you know, quite an exciting fight at the time. Why I loved it, they dropped each other in the first round, much like the last fight I did mention as well, but it's a true display of each other's power and respect. So despite that display of power, it didn't actually end in a knockout. And despite these guys getting knocked down to the canvas in the first round, this went in a full duration. And Costa actually won by a very close, and some say quite controversial decision. However you scored this fight anyway, it was fireworks. Equally matched powers going backwards and forwards, just as advertised. But the reason why I put this fight above my last one is because in the arena, there was a standing ovation. You know, the whole crowd, they stood up, they started clapping and standing just for that fight because it was such a great show. But that takes me now into my number 1. This one, I'm confident to be my number 1 because it's just so exciting. It's the Frankie Edgar versus Gray Maynard 2, UFC 125. Everyone loves a good trilogy. You know, that's why this fight was special. The heart and determination of Edgar has never been a secret to true MMA fans. My friend Ash here, he would tell you that. And this iconic trilogy against Maynard had actually proved that. A full redemption story for Edgar, Maynard got the better of Edgar in the first encounter, but Edgar quickly rose through the lightweight division before the rematch with the only man that ever beat him. And that itself is just such a fairy tale-like story. Why did I love it? Not just because of the sort of story there, but when they met for this rematch, Maynard managed to bully Edgar for a full 5 minutes in the first round, but somehow Edgar was able to come back from rags to riches, survive that, like something out of like some sort of Rocky movie, and pay him back over the next 4 rounds. Who won that one? Unsatisfyingly, it did end in a draw. But, that's a huge testament to show how back and forth this fight was. The third fight they had in UFC 136, that concluded with, of course, Frankie Edgar winning. But, the whole point of this fight here is it was just an epic story. And the reason why I had to rank this one at number 1 is because it could have gone into its own box set, this fight, it's got its own hero, it's got its own villain, it's even got a twist in the middle as well. You don't expect a draw, but that's what happened. That, for me, guys, was my top 5 fights in UFC of all time.
All right, not bad.
Wow, Mr.
Okay.
Brown.
Hey.
Interesting.
Hey.
Very
Hey.
surprising.
Told you, we're not ashamed. We're not embarrassed at all. I mean, you
Yeah.
guys had some good stuff in there as well. You had some really good fights, but it was
man.
It was really difficult with that one, with the last one, Frankie Edgar and Gray Maynard.
Yeah, you made me feel a bit bad putting it at number 5, just the way you explained it.
Yeah, no,
It's a trilogy, man.
Yeah, I don't know. You see, I don't know. When you think about the title,
None of you put Dooho Choi in there.
No, that's true. You did have that one. I must admit.
Yeah.
But when you got to look at it, you got to look at the title is the most entertaining fights. The backstory doesn't really play into it.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it does. You got a trilogy here.
You'd have-
because-
it's not most anticipating fights, though, is it? Now that's a different category. But entertaining, when you strip everything back and you just watch that fight as like a casual.
Yeah.
What's better?
Yeah,
But yeah, no.
It's a story
that's
that makes
true.
it so huge.
Oh,
I
I
think. Well,
dunno.
you had the Ultimate Fighter in one of yours, didn't you? You had
The first one, yeah.
Yeah.
that-
I mean, there wasn't even
yeah,
a
that's
UFC
true,
fight. I thought
yeah.
that was quite exciting. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
hello.
yeah, no, that's probably...
To be fair, like Jordan mentioned, it pumped the UFC up there. So
It did,
to me,
no,
that's
there's
what I
a
mean.
lot-
I was going to put that at my number 5. That was going to be my number 5, just purely because it propelled the UFC to what the UFC is now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
was
and I
tough. It
mean
was
that
tough, top
fight
5.
was just insane from start to finish.
Yeah, it
Both
was.
guys were just slugging it
Yeah.
out. I must admit, there was a few that we missed out. There was the Diego Sanchez versus Gilbert
There was.
Melendez fight,
Yeah.
the Bigfoot Silva Mark Hunt
Yes.
fight, the Czech Congo versus Pat Berry
Ooh,
fight.
yes.
A few very good ones.
Lesnar versus Carwin. I mean, that was,
Exactly.
that was a big one of its time.
Yeah, no,
there's
absolutely.
so many decent ones out there. That's why it was so
Yeah.
hard.
But, all in all, if you have got your top 5 picks, why don't you put them in the comment section below? And if you like this video, smash a like. And there's next time for yet another top 5 video.